Ngesi Radio, or you can check out our YouTube channel as well, Keith Ngesi Radio, www.keithngesi.radio.com, or Kanye, you can download the mobile app so that you don't miss 1 minute or a second of your favorite broad programming that is brought to you by KNR. Let's check out what's happening in the world of current affairs. Of course, this being one of our pillars, and we need to make sure that our finger is always on the pulse of what exactly is happening and how best we can always affect change by knowing what's going on and trying to make sure that we maximize on that information. Buhle Vangeli Hlengiwe Manyati, also known in the music industry as Buhle, had a perfect album listening session ending on a bad note last week due to crime. According to witnesses present at Sips Cigar Lounge in Melville, Johannesburg, they heard gunshots and one of the guests had his car stolen. The 23-year-old amapiano musician released her first album, Isilomo, last week, which is the same week she gathered friends, family, and fans to celebrate in song at her listening session. However, eyewitnesses say Tabang May, who was at Buhle's event, gunshots were heard and the car was stolen. It all happened and it was very quick. Excuse me. It was at the end of the night. Buhle had performed. All the proceedings were done. We were standing in the window when a gunshot went off and the car was gone, followed by another car. According to another witness, the Humberwena hitmaker, the incident happened while he was near the door. He says all he saw was a white Polo speeding off. Nobody was hurt, thank goodness. And he says, I didn't see everything except for the white Polo speeding off after it had been taken. I really don't want to comment on it much, but a car was stolen and I saw the commotion only outside when things were happening. The Northwest government has responded to shocking reports that it has spent 780,000 Rand on 20 donkey-drawn carts. Now, in a statement, the Northwest Department of Community Safety and Transport Management set the record straight about the swirling rumors. The department is concerned and about the misguided statements shared on the platforms. Now, in response to the Northwest government, it said that it had come to the attention of the Department of Community Safety and Transport Management that some social media platform users are used to peddling unsubstantiated information about the animal-drawn carts. On Thursday, the 3rd of November, MEC Silo Lehari handed the cards to 20 beneficiaries of Dibono Manawana villages outside Mahikeng, most of whom are women. In line with the National Land and Transport Act, this seeks to alleviate challenges faced by rural communities. The carts were manufactured in Lonely Park in Mahikeng, and there had been a skills transfer to some of the beneficiaries. As part of the contract with the department, the service provider will maintain the carts for 3 years at a no cost to the owners. The 20 carts were procured for a total of 780,000 Rand, inclusive of the 3-year maintenance. The 2-seater is 32,500 Rand each, and the 4-seater is 45,500 Rand, the department detailed. In addition, the department has pleaded with social media users to verify information rather than pallating falsities and deceitfulness that will harm the character of the department and the MEC and the management. Well, as we get a bit closer to it, the South African Police Service is serving as the butt of jokes on the social medias again. The latest clip going viral was filmed in Durban during preparations for the coronation of the Zulu King, King Misuzulu Kazwelithini. 2 officers seemed not to know their left from their right, one making an about turn the wrong way and the other giving up completely. They're not in sync, comments one of the tweets. Since it was posted on the 28th of October, the video has hit 342,800 likes. It's been retweeted more than 2,500 times. It is funny. You really have to watch. Oh, good. 25 now after 9 a.m. A family of 6, including 3 children, was killed in a horrific N4 truck accident on Sunday afternoon. According to the spokesperson Kyle van Rienen, paramedics responded to the accident just after 4 p.m. Emergency Med paramedics responded to the scene of a horrific collision involving a heavily articulated coal truck and a family sedan on the N4 in Elandshoek in Mbombela. On arrival on the scene, crews were met with absolute carnage as the Mercedes-Benz lay in pieces occupying the roadway. Shoo. Van Renen said that the extensive damage to the vehicle caused it to burst into flames shortly after impact. However, swift action from fire services saw the blaze extinguished. The driver, who was severely entrapped in the wreckage, was extracted using the jaws of life. Van Renen furthermore said that once cut free, the decision was made to airlift the driver to a specialist facility for the definitive care that he required, with the assistance of Netcare 911 Aero Medical helicopter. The 6 occupants of the sedan suffered fatal injuries and were declared dead upon arrival. The deceased's age is ranging from 2 to 50 years of age. The truck driver was assessed on the scene and did not suffer any injuries. Our thoughts and prayers extend to the families of those who have lost their loved ones. Former President Jacob Zuma says there is a perception of bias relating to Koen's ability to give him a fair trial. The state contends no evidence has been put forward that the judge will not be impartial. At Jacob Zuma's appearance in the Pietermaritzburg High Court in October, Judge Piet Koen said there was a necessity to adjudicate his role in the trial, considering a recent number of developments. Those developments were the private prosecution by Zuma of advocate Billy Downer to lead prosecutor in the matter. Zuma's October application to the Constitutional Court for leave to appeal against Koen's special plea, and the issue of whether the Apex Court application is properly judged and therefore suspends Koen's special plea judgment. And finally, Zuma's objection to Downer remaining involved in the trial, given the private prosecution. Koen said he may have to recuse himself, give some of the strong views that he expressed when dismissing Zuma's application that Downer be removed from the trial, and his denial to leave to appeal. As we continue, 28 minutes now after 9 a.m. Two Tshwane police officers have been arrested in Pretoria on charges of corruption linked to one of the inserts featured on Crime Watch. The traffic officers are expected to appear in court today. The city of Tshwane says all the officers will face disciplinary charges, and this in line with how they are fighting crime in the city of Tshwane. Presidential contender blames her downgrade on the SA embassy in Israel for her demotion. Tourism Minister and would-be President Lindiwe Sisulu suggested this week that President Cyril Ramaphosa had fired her as the Minister of International Relations because she implemented an ANC decision he didn't like, to downgrade South Africa's embassy in Israel to a mere liaison office. But did he perhaps deliberately let her do the dirty work while personally standing aloof from it to preserve his good relations with the Jewish community and to avoid alienating Israeli investors? Or maybe a bit of both. That's the sort of question quite often raised by the sometimes ambiguous foreign policy of a wily strategist. Think 2002, or think 2022 and Ramaphosa's supposed but never formally confirmed unhappiness with current international relations minister Naledi Pandor because of her department's statement on the 24th of February calling Russia to withdraw from the Ukraine. Ramaphosa blamed Vladimir Putin's invasion of the Ukraine on NATO because of its expansion up to Russia's borders. Nevertheless, the minister's statement still stands. Now, return to 2019 when Sisulu and Pandor, predecessor at the Department of International Relations. This week, Sisulu suggested that Ramaphosa had moved her to a lesser portfolio of tourism shortly after she implemented a controversial Israeli decision, where Ramaphosa was elected to be the party's president. The decision has come on the heels of Biden's administration sweeping new restrictions on chip exports to China, a move that crippled the country's fledgling semiconductor market overnight. Dedicated maintenance facilities for the B-52s will be set up at Tyndall Air Force Base, just south of Darwin in Australia's Northern Territories. This news was the first revealed by the Australian Broadcasting Commission, or the ABC, Four Corners program, and was quickly confirmed by the American officials and Australia's newly elected Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. In a statement made during a media conference, Albanese pointed out that Australia often cooperates with its allies on collective defense, and the situation was no different. There are visits, of course, to Australia, including in Darwin, and that has U.S. Marines, of course, on rotating bases stationed there. Albanese said that the same thing in the conference. The upgrades necessary at Tyndall Air Base will cost upwards of $100 million, but American officials have not released a time frame for the project's completion and have declined to say when the B-52s would be relocated to Australia. Finally, and further afield in our beautiful continent, envoys from around the globe gathered Sunday in the Egyptian seaside resort of Sharm el-Sheikh for talks on tackling climate change amid a multitude of competing crises, including the war in the Ukraine, high inflation, food shortages as an energy crunch. Nothing up a first small victory, negotiators agreed to 2 frantic days of preliminary talks to formally discuss the questions of vulnerable nations receiving money for the loss and damage they've suffered from the climate. Now, the issue has weighed down for talks. This is a difficult subject. It's been blurry for 30 plus years. So the fact that there is a substantive agenda believes it bodes well. More than 40,000 participants have been registered for this year's talks, reflecting the sense of urgency a major weather event around the world impact may have on many people and cost billions in repairs. Organizers say that about 110 world leaders will attend, many of them speaking at the high-level event on November 7th to the 8th, while U.S. President Joe Biden was expected to arrive later on in the week.